So we finally made it to Malaysia, Georgetown, Penang to be specific, and so far it's incredible. There's just such rich history of art and culture and amazing food in this place. We just have been met with such friendship. You saw in the last video, Hilmi helped us get here, and it really is a beautiful and amazing place. But it begs a question, why is there a place in the middle of Asia called Georgetown? We're going to explore that today.
So, we want to get two things kind of out of the way at the beginning of this. Number one, we know we're not experts on this. We're just general history enthusiasts. We find it interesting. So if we get anything wrong or we miss something, let us know, because we genuinely just want to learn more about the world. And number two, we know that everyone who was like colonizing, doing all that shit back in the day, they did a lot of shitty shit. So we're not here to tout anyone's horn. We really just want to focus on the people and why this specific town, city, is so interesting. So it's 1786, or not actually 1786, just pretend that it is. And a nice chap by the name of Captain Francis Light has just set foot off of his ship onto a new island, and specifically into a new town, one that he very creatively named Georgetown. Why did he name it Georgetown? Well, like every good boy back in the day, he wanted to pay homage to the king at the time, King George III. And in the grander scheme, he named the entire island Prince of Wales Island. Gotta hand it to the British in the 1700s, they really just pushed the envelope on naming things.
So this Francis fellow, he parked his ship here and claimed this as a new settlement under the British East India Company. But why'd he do that? It wouldn't have just been for no reason, right? Well, you see, there were a lot of reasons. Mostly it was to open up a free trade port so that their friends, the Dutch and the French, who were already in the area, could have a bit of competition. There were no British settlements here at the time. Francis needed to prove that he could hang with the big boys, the Dutch and the French, so he built this bad boy.
What is this?
This is Fort Cornwallis.
Why is it important?
Because it's where Francis Light first stepped when he got here.
Like right here?
No, there. Right
Oh.
there. Yeah.
Oh, over here.
Yeah.
Sick. So neat to just touch history, eh?
Yeah, am I touching it too much?
No, I think you're okay.
Okay.
So our boy Light gets here, parks his ship, all that business, and he's like, you know what, the Dutch are really doing a lot of cool stuff around here. I want in on the action, but I want to take some stuff away from them. I want to get their business. So he established this place as a free port. There were no duties or import fees on anything that people brought here to sell. That, coupled with great encouragement of immigration from China and India and other parts of Malaysia, it grew the population from 100 people to 10,000 people in a matter of 6 years.
This new settlement of Georgetown attracted a ton of attention from the outside world. Among the many who flocked here were the Hokkien people, hailing from southeastern China. We got hungry, so we stopped by for a meal at this hawker stall here. This is char maggi mee. This is a Hokkien dish, which is southeastern part of China. It's also a Chinese dialect, but it's also a whole culture, and this is our food. It's got shrimp, oyster, and Chinese sausage. My favorite part is the sausage. It's like really cured and slightly, not slightly, it's really sweet. Yeah, so good. There had been Chinese migrants already living on the Malay Peninsula for hundreds of years prior to the establishment of Georgetown, mostly because of their adeptness at extracting tin ore, which is very abundant in peninsular Malaysia. And now, with the new entrepot, which is a new word I just learned, basically it's just a fancy way of saying port city, tin slinging had become even more lucrative. But they weren't just tin miners, they were also very great at business in general. Today they form up to 65% of the population of Georgetown.
After China, the next largest group of people to immigrate to Georgetown were from India. A few of the first to arrive were a group of people known as the Chulias. Though they weren't there to really put down their roots like a lot of other people were. Instead, many of them worked as farm laborers and shopkeepers, and they saved up their earnings before going back home to their families. Next, we had, and I'm just going to go ahead and apologize right now for not pronouncing this correctly, the Natukatai Chettiars were known for their involvement in commerce and banking. And so they kind of became the main money lenders in Georgetown because they were heavily encouraged to immigrate to the new city. Lastly, there were the Malabars, and they were actually brought as convict laborers who were tasked with building a great deal of the infrastructure. And this included a lot of the roads, sanitation, such as those fancy drains that you've seen, and even some of the government buildings.
And we can't go without mentioning the large percentage of Malay people that live here in Georgetown. Their ancestors were also here from day one, helping to grow the unique history and culture of this beautiful city. So we just stumbled across this place. It's called the Jetty Food Court, and we had no idea it existed, and it's actually kind of easy to walk right past it. This is nasi lemak, and it's Malaysia's national dish. The sauce is sambal, and I don't really know what that is exactly, so I guess we're just gonna have to put it on the screen. This one came with some boneless chicken bites. We have rice, sardines, peanuts, and a hard-boiled egg, and cucumber, but I can't eat that because
it kills me.
I don't really know if there's a proper way to eat this, so I'm just gonna put the sambal on top, and then the sardines and peanuts, and just take a bite. You know what? One, two. At first glance, it seemed kind of simple, but there's so much flavor in that. That's so good. The sambal is so nice. It tastes like spicy, but like it's like a mixture of spicy spices and then other spices that just have flavor in them. I have a very unrefined palate. The sardines, I'm not usually a huge fan of sardines. They work, they just add a bit of saltiness to it, and it's really nice. Yeah, I'm a huge fan actually. Probably the biggest fan in this room, if I had to say. We hope you really enjoyed watching this, because as much as we love history, it turns out making a video about it isn't that easy. This was meant to be just a very brief history, and keeping it that way proved to be very difficult. It's just too interesting. So I guess, in closing, without this diverse group of people coming together, Georgetown wouldn't be what it is today. A multicultural, architectural, food haven. People say that it's one of the most touristy places in Malaysia, but don't let that stop you from visiting. Aside from areas like the Chu Jetty and Armenian Street, there really isn't a huge concentration of tourism here, especially compared to other hotspots in Southeast Asia. Georgetown still very much maintains its local, small-town charm. And even though I just ended the video, here I am again to do it one more time. Well, that about does it for our brief little intro on the history of Georgetown. Hopefully we got most of that right. But we're just so excited to be in Malaysia now and to discover more of it. But make sure you stay tuned for our next video where we're looking to get wet. And we'll just leave that up to you for interpretation. Oh, am I supposed to walk?
No, you're good. Yeah,
shit.
turn around and walk away. Yeah.
Just touch my dick to that man's back.